The 10-year challenge. No, I'm not talking about the cringy Facebook or Instagram trend where you get to see loads of photos of me as an awkward teenager, but a decade worth of drivers. And more importantly, the price when they came out and the price that they kept going down year on year to finally find what's the best equation for a great value driver. Ask me, how old should I buy? If I'm just starting golf and I don't want to get club fitted and I don't want to spend a lot of money, where should I start looking in terms of getting a driver? I don't want something that's got a hickory shaft in it, but at the same time, I don't want to spend my mortgage on one club. Where should I be looking? Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. It's Simon down here at Burford Golf Lab, and today we're going to look at a decade worth of drivers and how much they drop year by year. I've done some research. I found the prices of what all these drivers are worth in today's market, and basically we're going to see a bit of a trend here, and you can do this with any brand. I'm picking TaylorMade, number one, because I'm shameless and I wanted to put the sim driver in the thumbnail, and number two, this is a good brand. I like TaylorMade. Yes, I don't like the way that the majority of these manufacturers are going in terms of their marketing and price points. However, when it comes to TaylorMade as a wood manufacturer, they are one of the best. Yes, they do have the majority of the best players in the world, and you could give a lot of these players Patrick Reed's shovel and they'd still win a major. However, that does not negate the fact that these are premium drivers and woods, and when I get to fit with a lot of these clubs, it's very easy to put them into, let's say, the better player. TaylorMade, Callaway specifically are designed for the better player, and that's something I want to talk about when we look through the decade worth of TaylorMade drivers. Which one should you be looking for? Which one's going to be better for your game? Because not necessarily because it's new, it's going to be better for you. There are some drivers that will go through the list that are going to favour or tailor more towards the slower swing speeds or the forgiving element in the game. So if you like this video, please leave it a like. Comment down below what manufacturer you might want to see me do this again with, or maybe I do irons, or maybe I do putters, something a bit different, and let me know if you like this format. And as always, ask any questions down below and I will get to them eventually. So let me show you my full extent and knowledge of an Excel spreadsheet by showing you two graphs I've plotted from TaylorMade drivers over the last 10 years and how much they are worth now. So let's start off with the low spin graph and then the forgiveness graph. And you might be going, Simon, what do these two graphs mean? Why is one driver in one category and why is one driver in another? If you look at any manufacturer across the whole board, by the way, irons, drivers, wedges, you name it, they make a forgiving type of driver or iron, and they make a more controlling, low spin, smaller headed version, and that goes for irons as well. So the low spin version of this graph will be your M5, your M3, your M1 2017, 16, R15, etc, etc. And then on your forgiving column, you will see the such of aero burner, jet speed, M2, M4. Again, this year, obviously, you've got the sim that's going to be in the low spin category, and you're going to be having the sim max, which is obviously the more forgiving side of it, higher launching. Therefore, you can see and you can automatically put yourself into a category depending on what you want to have in your game. So if you're looking for a new driver, and this goes for any manufacturer, there is one factor that separates these two drivers, and that is adjustable weights. Now that's not necessarily always the case, but if you have loads of adjustable weights in the back of a head, normally that's to be able to put the CG further to the face, therefore create a lower spinning, higher launching, longer drive for the faster club head speed player. If you don't have any adjustable weights, so for example like your Ping G400 Max or your M4 from last year, or the Callaway Rogue, etc, etc, that is going to be more forgiving and you're going to get away with your bad shots more. That's why I've created these two columns, and we can look at how both of these drivers, or both of the types of drivers from TaylorMade have basically done over the year in terms of price. Some have gone up even though they're older, and some of them have just basically flatlined and just haven't done anything. And there's obviously some favorite drivers I have over the last 10 years, and there's also some drivers you should just stay clear of, because TaylorMade didn't necessarily always get it right. They've done well, but they haven't always got it right, and that you can say that for any manufacturer, to be honest. So if we take a look at my graph, it doesn't take an expert to see, and I basically always say drivers are like cars. Every year there's going to be a new car, there's going to be a new model, and from year to year you're not going to see hardly any difference. And as soon as you drive that car out of the garage, you're going to lose a substantial amount of money. It's exactly the same for a driver, and some cars like hold their value better than others. It's a very easy comparison, and I've plotted this graph from this current year's club. So we're starting with the M5 and M6 at the very start of the year, all the way down to the R9, which, by the way, I did videos on a lot of these drivers, and I'm going to be showing you clips that I've been testing these drivers over the last 3 years of me doing YouTube. And there's also, because of my bargain review series, I've actually touched upon quite a few of these drivers as well, and basically shouting how good these drivers can keep up with today's technology, even though you might be substituting some forgiveness or control or sound or feel. But obviously, if you're just looking for one particular bonus in your game, some of these drivers fulfill that need quite well. So, low spin driver. Starting off with the M5. Now, I found all of these numbers from eBay. I've basically gone through the completed sales recently. What are these selling for on average? And I've kind of kept them a bit high. You're going to find cheaper versions of this, whether you're left-handed or the condition of the driving isn't as good, or somehow you just get lucky and you get a great deal. So I'll probably price these a bit high. You could probably lower quite a lot of these, but obviously this was me spending 5 minutes on each club just looking for an average of the price. M5, from last year, 449, 280. You could probably find a brand new M5 driver on eBay for 280. Would I recommend going and buying an M5 off eBay for 280? No, because if you're spending that much money, you might as well get fitted for one. That's my honest opinion. You're going to be able to go to a pro shop. Yes, you're probably going to spend £100 more at this, like in today's market, because the sim driver's coming out. But at least you're going to know it works for you. Just because you think you need a reg flex or a stiff flex or a 10.5 or a 9 degree, you're probably wrong. And therefore, you need to make sure your launch and spin numbers are as good. That is the key. And that is why new drivers are so not expensive, but why I still have a job as a club fitter. Because yes, you might spend £400 with me, or 350 depending on the speed zone. But at least you know that driver is going to be fitted for your swing over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, as long as you don't make significant swing changes. That is why club fitting is still important. So for a lot of these drivers here, if you're going to go on a whim and go, I think this driver is going to be good for my game, £280, even though it's nearly £200 cheaper from when it came out last year, is still a lot of money. And as you can see in the graph, and this is typical for every golf manufacturer out there, Titleist, Callaway, Ping, Srixon, Mizuno, etc, etc, as soon as that first year the new driver comes out, that old driver is going to come down quite heavily in price, because you've got tons of pro shops and you've got tons of websites and stores and whatever trying to get rid of these drivers. Otherwise they're just going to be left with them. It's very much like stocks and shares. So M3 190, again, we're looking somewhat in the realms now of a good value driver. Obviously the M3 was the first to have twist face in it, and I personally, as quite a good hitter of the golf ball, could see some difference with the twist face. If I decided the game and my first handicap's 20, am I going to see a difference? No. You need to have a very consistent club face and swing path to see any difference in these numbers. And again, we're talking probably 4 to 6 yards, maybe better off when you hit a bad shot. For the guys on tour, 4 to 6 yards being in the heavy rough or the fairway is going to save them a lot of shots over the course of the year. For us hackers, probably not. And as we go through the graph of the low spin drivers, you can see it starting to shallow out a bit. And this is kind of the zone I'd be looking for. A lot of people ask me, how old should I buy? If I'm just starting golf and I don't want to get club fitted and I don't want to spend a lot of money, where should I start looking in terms of getting a driver? I don't want something that's got a hickory shaft in it, but at the same time, I don't want to spend my mortgage on one club. Where should I be looking? And if you look at the graph, for me, it's always about that 4 to 5 year period. 4 to 5 years old, exactly the same as a second-hand car. If you've got a 4 to 5 year old car that's only got 40,000 miles on the clock, decent price, you're gonna be there, and you're gonna have something that's gonna last you until potentially you want to get a brand new car. Therefore, when it comes down, and I talk about this club a lot, and to be honest, the M1s I wasn't quite favourable when they first came out. The M2s I obviously loved, and I think it shows in the graph in a minute. The M2s have held their, especially the 2016 one, have held their value a lot better over the years. But the M1 I'd be looking around. Typically R15, £100, great looking club, adjustable weights, goes an absolute mile, slightly more improved than the SLDR, because the SLDR was the first low spinning, high launching driver TaylorMade kept brought out, and it kind of changed the game. Very difficult to control, and I felt like the adjustable weights on the R15 can somewhat help that. So that 5-year mark of the R15 is where I would base a great value driver. R15, £100, you're going to be able to find a few of them. You're going to have to wait a bit to see if you can find a good condition one. But again, you could do this with any manufacturer. If we go back, Titleist 917, 15, 13. I think around the same area, the 913 driver. Typically, if I had to choose between a 913 driver and TaylorMade R15, I'd probably go down the R15 route. I do feel the years of the SLDR and R15, TaylorMade kind of dominated quite heavily at that time. But more recent years, for example, if I was to go, let's say 3 years in advance and I want to go back 5 years, I would take the Callaway Epic all day long over TaylorMade's M1. And as the graph goes down, obviously we start seeing it shallow out. And let's be honest, if you're getting a driver for £40, I mean, it serves a purpose. It means that you can play the game of golf with a 460 head driver. If you're not buying a 460cc, which is basically the size of the head of a driver in today's age, then you're losing out already. Like, I have got some guys that I teach, and I'm happy to teach them, but guys, you will gain 30 to 40 yards by getting a graphite shaft and a 460cc head rather than your steel one wood. Doesn't matter, as long as you're enjoying the game, that's the main thing. But as I say, it shallows out, so sometimes you're going to see drivers that are quite old, that because they're in good condition and because they were a good driver when they came out, they're going to be £100 or £80. So this is where it shallows out. And as I say, 5 years is probably a good mark of keeping up with the technology, but at the same time, you're going to be paying pretty much a quarter of what it came out for. So let's move on to the forgiving drivers opposed to the low spin drivers. And to be honest, all of you watching this, I would say 20% of you probably should get the low spin driver. The majority of you should get the forgiving driver, and that's just out of the averages of what handicap and what clubhead speeds I see on a day-to-day basis. Yes, that one drive might go in a mile, but it's all about your averaging your bad shots and keeping it in the middle. And to be honest, forgiving is always better. I've never had the low spin heads in my, I've never had a Sub-Zero, I've never had an M1, I've never had an M3, I've never had a Ping LST. I've always gone the forgiving side, because even though I've got the distance, I don't really care. I don't need another 20 yards. I need not to be 60 yards out of bounds. So we move on to the forgiving, and you can see some bit of a difference here. Now, the non-adjustable weighted drivers are always going to be cheaper, sometimes, but majority of the time, they're going to be cheaper because obviously when they first came out, the retail's normally going to be £50 less. So M6, so this again, slightly above the mark in terms of where they probably are in the market, but £220 on eBay you could probably find these for. Again, would I buy an M6 off eBay at the moment? No, because you're gonna but still spend a lot of money, and it's too close to just go and get fitted for a driver. Even if it's for something, whatever, Cobra F Max, you might go and get fitted for one of those, that's cheaper than this. Ben Ross, go and get fitted for one of those, that's cheaper than the M6. So I'm a big advocate for club fitting, but I understand the cost comes with it. I wouldn't spend £200 on a driver on eBay ever. Anyway, so we go down the graph. M4, again, I wasn't really a big fan of the M4 with the twist face. I just don't feel like I added that much in terms of, like, the twist face for the M3, if you're a good enough player, you're going to see that difference. With the M4, if you're a mid-handicapper, you're not going to see the difference really between that and just a normal bulge and roll face. Then the M2, I've still got the M2 2017 in the bag. And also you can get fitted for the 2017 M2, I know, in American Golf stores at the moment, which again, I know you guys might be thinking, yes, but I could get one for £120, but if it's not right for you, then it's kind of pointless. So you can get fitted for the M2s at the moment, I know, in some stores. And then the 2016 M2, which I go on about, and you guys are probably unsubbing now because I'm going on about it again, but it's gone up in price. I got mine for £80 off Facebook Marketplace for our dream bag, which is an absolute steal, and from one of you guys that are watching the video, so thank you ever so much, even though you didn't know I was buying it at the time, so I didn't kind of cheat, but I got it for £80, which is a great value, and that's the bottom line. If you find an M2 2016 driver for £80, you are a winner in my eyes. But the majority of like people like Golf Bidder, Clubs for Cash on eBay, they're going for about £160, like a good condition. Like the one I've got, good condition. If it's got the whole white strip of the top tore off it and half a handle, yes, you're going to find one for like 60 quid. But I'm talking good condition, it's going to hold up. Obviously, you don't get warranties with second-hand drivers, which is the risk that you do run. But we see a slight increase. And okay, 150 might be a big exaggeration, but again, it's going to be slightly more than the M1 counterpart, which shows that the driver is good. I don't think anyone would disagree with me that the M2 2016 driver was not a good driver. And at the end of the day, exactly the same as horse racing. The favourite's backed by a lot of people for a reason. They've done their research, they know their stuff, and on average, that horse is going to win. Same as this M2, you're going to get a good bargain with this driver because it's a good sounding, feeling distance driver, and that's why I personally like it, as well as it looks good. And the sim driver this year, I would say, is on a par for looks. That's my personal preference, but I do feel the sim looks great, mainly because it's got my 3 letters of my name on the bottom of it. And again, the year before that, Aero Burner, which was just a travesty. Like, if you bought that driver, I feel sorry for you. The TP version of the Aero Burner was actually quite good, however. And then Jet Speed, again, car crash. RBZ, car crash. The forgiving side of the drivers, when TaylorMade were bringing them out, weren't great. They sounded awful. They kind of just went up in the air and just spun to nowhere, which I understand was kind of the point for lower handicap players, because obviously you want to get it airborne, but they just didn't sound or feel good whatsoever. And I feel like the technology was going to the low spin because obviously distance was key, getting the ball out there, and they kind of transitioned that into their forgiving clubs as they went on. Therefore, it went like low spin drivers for TaylorMade were great 5 to 10 years ago, and now it's kind of swapped. Their forgiving range, their Max, which I'm looking forward to, Sim Max, which is coming out, I'm looking forward to hit. The M2s were great drivers for the majority of golfers. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out, but there was that definite switch. So don't go and buy an Aero Burner or a Jet Speed unless you find one for 30 quid and you decide the game. Spend a tiny bit more, and I'd definitely go down that M2 route. So guys, I hope that answers the question on how long you should wait. If you're looking to grab yourself a bargain, where should you be looking? And it's not always that cut and dry. As I say, Callaway, I'd probably go down the Epic route, even though that's only like 3 years old for a good driver, rather than going any further back, just because it's one of those groundbreaking drivers, same as the M2 was for TaylorMade. Ping G400, I wouldn't really go past the G400 Max, to be honest, for your most forgiving drive. And I know that's going to be still like 140 or 160 pounds second hand, for example, but in terms of how much you play golf, I think that would be a good investment. You could say Ping G series, to be fair, as well. They're still good drivers, but you get the point. Anyway guys, thank you ever so much for watching this video. As I say, leave me some suggestions down below. Catch you guys later.